You're good.
Okay. We're back in session, coming out of our executive session, and we're looking at motion number 10 on our discussion agenda, that the Common Council approves the renaming of the Community Development Department as the Planning and Development Department and incorporation of all functions of the Code Enforcement Office within this department, and approves the associated organizational chart and staffing plan as presented. Do I have a motion to approve? I've got Elaine, followed by Mike. Discussion? Len?
The first document that the New York State Code Enforcement uses is the Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. And under that guise, I would humbly suggest that rather than putting in the Code Enforcement Office into a new department, is that we fold it under like 40 to 60% of municipalities in New York State and fall it under the fire department. The fire department's first mission is life safety. If you look up code enforcement, their first mission statement is life safety. We have 2 fire chiefs that have, along with captains, in fact, one of our captains worked for the code enforcement office, are trained in code enforcement, and it would give an opportunity for the fire department to have more activity, more opportunity to be into our commercial, industrial, and residential properties, and I think there would be a little bit more synergy. So I would just recommend that we put the code enforcement office and leave the deputy as such and have the 2 fire chiefs oversee the code enforcement office.
Greg, at our last council meeting where we actually discussed this, it was tabled and moved to this agenda, the chief was presented with that option and responded. Do you have access to what his response was?
I can look back at my notes. His response, from my recollection, was that in his research, generally that's not what's typically done, and that the proposal that we put forth, having code enforcement as a member of a planning and development type of or community development department is common, and that he was not suggesting or endorsing moving code enforcement under the fire department. What he has suggested, which you've seen probably or will see in the 2026 budget request, is creating a new position, a $100,000 a year salary administrative position called fire marshal, which would not be a code enforcement position, but we can talk more about that later. So he's looking to do something separate and complementary perhaps to the code enforcement office, but he hasn't presented that. So this has come up other than in that was at the finance meeting when it was first mentioned. The fire chief was not really in support of that at the time.
At that same meeting, Judy, you had some comments, you had some thoughts relative to your managerial experience.
Yeah, so this is what we are proposing is what we've been building towards for the last, 3.5 years. It's one of the reasons why my department, which was me at times, moved downstairs to join the codes office. We've been calling it the Planning and Development Department for the last 3 years. We've been working towards this. I have over 30 to 40 years of project management experience on very large projects with very large project teams in the private sector, and then coming here, got 9 years experience on Halloween. We followed the grant, working with the former community development deputy director on making those ties with planning and development, planning and zoning, and having me run the combined department will continue on with our approach that we've been attempting to get to or trying to get to, and it will take the administrative load off of John so he can continue to be a working inspector, working codes officer. We also, codes office does not have a lot of experienced staff other than John, so it's critically important that we pursue this approach and adopt this approach.
Okay. Further council conversation on this? Scott?
So, John, I've been trying to keep, so nothing's personal. And I want to apologize because I don't think I really got that across with my objection at the last meeting. And I apologize too. Nothing's personal. And Cecilia, you asked me a question, I really just couldn't get my hand around it to kind of say what my objection is. And my objection was kind of like when we did it when we moved one employee from finance over to human resources. It was about money. And while I understand this is a savings and stuff, I also see how we're in the restructuring and we're taking, some stuff off and doing stuff. And then we're gonna raise up more money and stuff like that. That's really my holdup, is trying to get around all that. So as we take stuff away and then we're moving pay up, it's like, is this really, I know Greg tried to explain it, and just to come back around to full circle, this is probably just a spot where Greg and I will just never agree on this. So that's really what it is, John. It's nothing, I hope I explained it better this time than I did last Tuesday.
No, I mean, I really think, so it's been 41 days since Steve left. I've assumed his duties as well as mine, as well as a trickle-down effect in my office. My whole office is starting to feel uneasy at this point. While I understand the fire department, I understand the incorporation of the fire department, we're working closely with them. The code office is much bigger than fire inspections. We have, I could take hours telling you what our duties are just off fire inspections. We have blighted properties, we have vacant properties, we have a changing city within the last 5 years. I've had to chase around houses with up to 22 people in them, vacate them. I just vacated one in conjunction with the police department 2 weeks ago. I actually got brownies for that, by the way, from a community member, and a hug, or an attempted hug. But I think it's really, I think we need to move forward. I actually think, we communicate with community development all the time. I've been asking her details on projects. I've been asking Sarah details on projects that I need to know. But my goal is I want to be out there. I want to be talking to community members. I've done it. I've done it my entire career for going on 19 years. I want to know what the problems are. I want to see what they are. If you sit behind a desk and review parking all day long, you lose touch. And that's what I don't want to lose. I've gone through 4 code officers. And I think I don't want to wait until 2026. I don't want to wait until a new plan comes out. Greg and I have talked about this at length. Steve and I have talked about it. Judy and I have talked about it. The whole entire code staff. I'm a communicator. I walk through that office. There's a loop in our office, and I'm starting to wear the carpet out because I want everyone in that office to know what's going on. There's some big issues, zoning and planning wise, that need further review. A lot of questions, a lot of concerned neighbors, and I want to make sure that is adequately handled along with enforcement duties, because we're code enforcement. That's what we do. And I'm missing that experienced person alongside me. I was just thinking about the police chief. If you took the lieutenant out of his department, he would probably be hurting pretty bad. We're hurting. And you have the power to grant me relief tonight.
Further conversation? Mike?
So the services that you require for planning and zoning, they could be handled by an outside source? I've been told Delaware Engineering has this ability.
They did, and actually, we've done it before.
So
The
that
last
you-
time we lost a code officer,
Right.
Delaware took over. Robert at Delaware Engineering, he's been there, 10 years.
Plus he was our code enforcement officer.
He was our code enforcement officer, and I'm gonna tell you what, I sat down and hours today, and he's given the ability to sit behind that computer and look at all of this information uninterrupted. And he found questions on a project.
Right.
There are, if you rush things, of course, if you rush anything, you may miss something. And with the staff that we're operating on right now, you don't want that to happen. You want to be as thorough as you can. And like I said, I've talked with Greg about this, and we came up with this together. And I honestly don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's an evolution of the office.
Elaine?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for your, thoughtful consideration of, how to manage the department and, with the resources that you currently have and, looking at how to improve efficiencies and, come up with a long-term plan. So, I trust that, it sounds like you have thoroughly investigated all the options and come up with something that is really going to best serve the city ultimately, as well as, the folks working in the department. I appreciate how it addresses, some of those identified issues that you brought up, like the experience level of the current staff that you have. And I really also appreciate how, moving forward with a plan like this can really help us, I think, dig deeper into some of those housing concerns and other issues that you brought up that I am constantly hearing from the public about, blighted properties. I just heard it on our intermission, earlier. And so I think at this point we do need to, act to do something to address giving the department the support that it needs so that you can do the work that the community is expecting and that they need, from our city services. So thank you, for doing that.
Katie?
I agree. So my understanding, and I know you said you could talk to us for hours, and I believe that. Every interaction I've had with you has been very thoughtful and very thorough. My understanding of the interactions or the responsibilities of the Code Enforcement Office does more closely align with public safety in my very green understanding. So I'm hoping that you could shed a little bit of light on how code enforcement aligns with planning and development. I know that, we had, and this happens a lot in organizations, right? We have one person with a particular set of skills and we kind of use them in multiple roles and then those things get paired. But to me, it's not a natural pairing without that person in that role. And so I'm just trying to understand prior to going forward with this, how this is a more natural fit for code enforcement than with public safety. Because I know that you do a lot. I agree. I mean, the enforcement part, the way that our neighborhoods look and feel and operate in terms of, our housing stock and our commercial buildings and things like that, it really is closely related to the police department, fire department. So to me, I've sort of always seen it in that aspect. Like I know that you guys are able to issue tickets. Anyway, I'll stop talking. I've asked my question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, so I have pretty good communication with, I would say my communication with the police department is pretty good. I have occasional interaction with the fire department. I went to a meeting with them today because we're discussing fire safety issues. Yes, it is important, and it is our number one priority. But we also have people that come to us and say, I'm putting in a parking lot, and I want to do it next month, and what do I need to do? So I had to stop a project recently on River Street because they've done a parking lot, it's front yard parking. There's a number of variances going to be required for that specific project. For me to investigate that alone, that has nothing to do with fire.
Right.
That's zoning and planning.
Okay.
Steve was a professional planner, and people bring ideas to it. I mean, it's constant, like ideas, like, hey, can I do this? Can I put a daycare in here? What is this zoned? Because I'm thinking about putting maybe block housing here, and you have to answer those questions. They're very time consuming. We answer setback questions daily, parking requirements daily. We've got a whole entire, now, this is centered around safety, rental property program, short-term rental. The time that is spent looking at short-term rentals, and this is not fire safety as much as zoning, that you have to investigate to build the case that you are actively renting without a permit is way more than anybody would ever realize. I actually had that from one of the employees. He was like, oh, I think you can do this. I think you can do this pretty quickly. And I said, no, almost all summer. It takes almost all summer of our time to investigate that. That is zoning and planning. That's a section of it. That is a portion of it that I would enforce. But the going through a housing development project or somebody who wants to locate a business in a certain section of town, that's the zoning portion of it. That's the planning portion coming in. That's the part that Steve covered, like, entirely.
Right.
And it's been covered for almost 20 years by a specific person in our office,
Right.
Lee Ferris. Lee Ferris covered it for many years. We had code officer after code officer. Lee Ferris did it. Robert took it on for a very short period of time, and he left the city. He left the city pretty quickly. This is a burnout job. So you start taking zoning and planning, you start taking fire safety, you start taking everything like that. You're gonna burn somebody out pretty quickly. But the communication has been constant. I'm constantly going over there. They're tying up grants. They're trying to get building permits from owners, trying to get more information from them. Where are you at in your projects? That's information that she has that I do not have because there's grant-related monies. So that's, I don't want to keep you too long, but I could keep going.
Thank you, John.
Can I just clear up? So
Scott.
Delaware Engineering would take on, in your scenario that you're giving us with, Delaware Engineering would take on what part of that? If somebody came in and said, I wanna build this,
So-
Delaware Engineering would say, well, this is the setbacks, this is this, this is
No,
this,
no,
this is
no.
that.
That is all surface level. So everything, I answer those questions. And I'm like, you're in the zone, here's the setback, here's the requirements. I also will say, you gotta think about fire separation distances. But once you get to that paper, you submit an application with a site plan. I give it to them. They review it, and I say, do you need anything else to proceed? And then they'll do, if it's in-depth advisement to the planning and zoning board, that's what I say.
So who would come to the zoning board meeting or the planning board?
It would be that, if we're paying money for them to review this, they would be there.
Okay.
Right now, what's on the table is the part-time, staff person. And the thought is to do that in conjunction with a consultant, so that smaller items and quicker items could be handled by a part-time person. The larger ones could go out to the consultant. The really big projects would have their own consultant hired, just like we just did. So the optimal, solution to the two departments going into one department is, the way we have it laid out with a consultant, whether that's on retainer or how that's handled, and a part-time planning and zoning person, who could take that piece of the load on as well.
Yeah,
So it's a combination.
even before Steve left, he said, you need a permanent solution to this. And I think these two aspects will lead you to that.
Further discussion, council members?
Yeah.
Len?
So it sounds though as Delaware Engineering has the ability to provide the service that you need. I mean, you've been suffering for 41 days, right?
Yes.
And this will continue if we allow it. So why introduce more legacy costs? Why introduce that rather than just give us a retainer for their professional services, which are literally 100, 200 feet down the street from you guys?
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I think the full-time person that I relied on for this, or, you know, and we worked in conjunction together, he's gone. Now, by getting them as a consulting firm on, and we've done this before, this has literally been done before. They can take that, and then I've even said, I mean, I'll watch the hours that they're devoting to this. There's some things that are very, very easy, which might not even, you know, need representation.
Right.
You can be like, guys, lot line adjustment. There shouldn't be any questions here. It's just a simple lot line adjustment. But if you get, say, a proposed gas station along with a liquor store, that requires some additional review.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if I'm proposing, again, I want to be out there. I want to be out there. I don't want to be staring at DEC regulations regarding combined reviews that Delaware can do.
Right. We definitely don't want to add any more to your plate, but is this an opportunity also for maybe Herman Engineering to share some of this workload?
We hadn't discussed that, Greg. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we could do, we haven't hired Delaware Engineering for anything other than the RSS review at this point. This could be an RFQ type of process, and then anyone who's qualified can submit a submission.
I mean,
We're talking about Delaware because they've done it before, they're doing
Right.
it now.
They have
the
Right.
expertise.
Herman Engineering is a very good firm too.
Yeah.
Correct.
Scott.
So, great. Is this plan still gonna work since the part-time isn't funded in the 2026 budget?
Yeah, so the key to me is the consultant piece, having them available on retainer. As Judy was explaining, the combination of the two is an ideal scenario. It's difficult, I think, it will be difficult to find and keep a part-time person with the right experience and qualifications, willing and able in our area to do this. But if you have that, you know, maybe it is more cost-effective. But absent that, the consultant can just do more. You know, whatever we can't do in-house, John makes a phone call, sends an email, communicates with them, and they help us as needed. So what the cost ends up being is really dependent upon how much is coming through the Planning and Zoning Board and Landmarks Commission, but ultimately having the consultant there, that's kind of the rock to lean on in the case that you don't have a part-timer.
Right, I mean, you brought up a very good point, that it's a specialized position. I mean, to take the workload off of John, who has 20-plus years, I think, with the city, you know, it's somebody that's gonna have to have as much knowledge as John does. So, I'm trying to understand the process of instead of just looking at the two engineering firms that we're blessed with to have in Oneonta in our small community, to take that workload off of John immediately, rather than introduce more legacy costs onto the city budget.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
So why are we going down the path of legacy rather than contracts?
So the proposal, the structure would having a combination of both budget permitting, as you mentioned, and as I mentioned before, there is no budget in the 2026 budget proposed right now for the part-timer. There is a budget, $20,000, if that's enough, for the planning and zoning assistance. That's something, if this structure were approved, we could go forward with any time. That RFQ process, or if we wanted to just hire Delaware Engineering because they're doing it now, however the city wants to do it, professional services, we can do that. The part-time piece is really dependent on funding and availability of someone qualified to do it. If we think it's gonna be cost-effective within our budget, that would be an option we have. We have a title that was adopted by the Civil Service Commission. You know, it's an option there, a tool in the toolbox. But ultimately, you know, funding drives everything, so depending on what's available, we'll do the best we can with that.
It's insurance flexibility.
Absolutely.
If we don't have any further discussions on this, I think we could probably, yes?
Well, I would just like to,
Go ahead.
oh, no.
Okay. It says, who would,
I thought,
Shannon, did you have?
no, I was cough. Oh,
Cecilia,
sorry.
please.
I was not gonna cough, I was gonna say something. So what I wanted to say is that I do think it would behoove us as a council to be thinking about creating a more robust and stronger and more visible planning department and having eventually an independent planning department for the city. And I don't believe the frame of legacy costs is useful in that discussion. So that's my,
And I'll just concur from my perspective as being somebody who is continually funneling people to the planning and development department, that having a robust people in that department would make some sense. Judy?
I don't think that's legacy costs.
Adding another employee to the city budget, that's a legacy.
So that's the part-time.
Their retirement, all of it. So rather than John saying, this is something I just don't have time, I'm gonna send it over to one of the engineering firms that he trusts with, and we fund him some money so that he can take that workload off. I don't want any more work on it.
So
It's great that you have communication with each other, you're in the same four walls, that's great, but he needs workload taken off of him, and how do we do that? And so, I see immediate relief by getting that contract in place, so that we have one or two engineering firms or others that are at his disposal, so he can take some of that workload off. I have full confidence that John can handle the job.
So, Greg, could you just go through the budget, because I'm not clear on where if there's an additional legacy cost for what we're proposing.
Well, with a part-time position, just like a full-time position, there's a salary cost depending on how many hours per week they're, needing to work. There is the city's contribution potentially to the retirement system, depending on whether they're a part of that or not. And then there wouldn't be health insurance costs. There would be the FICA on top of that. So
So we lost one employee. We're looking to fill one spot, which would be less money than that employee that we lost. We're looking to add a part-time person potentially and the consultant. I'm not taking any additional for the combined departments. So I think it's pretty low legacy cost increase is what we're proposing, if I understand.
yeah, it was essential. I mean, it depends on how much activity is going on in the planning and zoning commission, how much fees we occur each year with the consultant, but it was roughly cost neutral when we costed it.
okay, from what I recall from our discussion from last council meeting, there's actually a decrease in costs.
I would round to cost neutral just because you don't know how many
Okay.
applications might come through. Now, keep in mind, bigger things like the Solstice Commons project, we can enter agreements where they pay, the city reimburse the city for a cost incurred by the consultant to review things. But stuff like someone's site plan review for their new garage or something is not something we're gonna ask them to create an escrow account for. So that would just be something the city provides through its expense to the consultant.
I think we've fairly well covered most of the ins and outs, and
I'm sorry, I still have
Go,
questions.
Katie.
I'm reading through like the provided org chart narrative, and I just don't see how the combination of departments provides the relief to the code enforcement department. Cause it's like, this is saying historically providing support to 1, 2, 3 or so boards has been a separate function of code enforcement, but it's been dumped on code enforcement, but it sounds like they're still going to do that, so I'm confused. Oh, provide this support through a combination. Okay, so we're saying that the consultant and the planning and zoning specialist would provide the support to those commissions, committees, commissions, boards.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
so did you just answer your
I may
question?
have answered my own question,
All right.
I
So-
think, but.
If you're comfortable with that, then Mike?
I have two things to say. First of all, that when I worked in the planning office, with the planning office in Madison, like the code enforcement was part of planning, and it worked really well. And I think it's logical, especially not thinking about code enforcement as a safety issue as much as, thinking from a planning perspective. From my background in urban planning, that planning is defining what you want the built environment of the city to be, and code enforcement is like an arm of that planning in which to make sure that you are following those plans, from the comprehensive plan down to the nitty-gritty detail about, and so I really, to me, this seems like the best route. And having said that, I'd like to call the question.
Yeah, that's where we were going. So with that, please.
Councilmember Mosher Campoli.
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh Russo.
Aye.
Councilmember McHugh.
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu.
No.
Councilmember Carson.
No.
Councilmember Harrington.
No.
Councilmember Forrester Rothbart.
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Motion number 11, that the common, Yes,
Point
Mike.
of order. Given the hour, I'm wondering if we're going to have a budget discussion, and if not, if we can decide that now, so that the staff who are here for that don't have to stick around.
I don't know that we have an option of not having a budget discussion.
Okay.
Motion number 11, that the common council establishes the title of planning and zoning specialist, subject to all civil service requirements, allocated to the part-time wage schedule grade PT-10 with a standard workday of 8 hours. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a motion to, there we go. Elaine, followed by Cecilia. Discussion?
So
Scott?
if this isn't funded, why are we doing it now, Greg?
Greg?
Setting up the structure. So for instance, we defunded a student worker position in the engineering department last year. It's again not funded in the 2026 budget. It still exists, it's still a possibility, it's still something we can consider in the future, but not funding it just means we don't have the funding to fill it. Having the option, we talk about flexibility, that's the only reason to have it. You have that option in the future. It would be showed as, realistically, I would take it off the org chart for the 2026 year, because it wouldn't be something we're looking to fill. You know, I share the org charts and it shows a vacant position or it's a full-time or a filled position. It would be unfunded, so it would come off of there. But that position, what this motion does is just adopting the position in our part-time wage schedule as it says. It doesn't imply that we're funding it, so it just gives us that option in the future.
Cecilia?
I just wanted to, again, state, and I just want to actually thank Mike. I think that was a very useful description of what Planner does. Sometimes because they're sort of, they synthesize so much information across an organization and within a municipality that it's often we're not clear about what a planner actually, what they do on a daily basis. And I think, so I appreciate that you gave us a really, I think, useful definition of what we can then imagine a person doing, which is, you know, enacting a certain vision, or set of visions. And I just wanted to say that, you know, I think the planning and zoning specialist is not funded at the moment, but at least it's like I see this motion as a placeholder for a potential planning position down the line, because I think a planning position is really what we need to have as an organization for the future.
Further discussion?
I would just like to say that I agree, and I would love to, for me, like the enforcement piece of code enforcement, I really would love to see that still. And I also appreciate that perspective that you shared. You know, for me, I have so many issues in my neighborhood that I know that code enforcement just does not have currently the capacity to address. And so for me, splitting those two things and really having, like you said, you know, communication between code enforcement and planning, but not having those things be the same, to me feels like it will serve the goals of my community more. And so that's why I was not in favor of the merger, even though I see where you all are coming from. I think for me, the enforcement piece of it and freeing up your time to do that is very important. And so this, I sort of view separately from that. I see those things as very tied together, but not the same. And so I agree that we need a planning person to be able to review those applications that come in for a gas station,
taking what Katie just said, I believe this is an important discussion, but not an urgent one. And
Yeah.
so I think perhaps the best thing to do is table it and come back to it when we don't have still such a long agenda ahead of us.
Is that a motion?
I was just proposing it to air the idea,
Okay.
because I know once I propose it, then we have to vote on it.
Cecilia.
I just wanna ask, Donna, is this something, with having this part-time person, this position is not necessarily, but it's something that you would eventually, your office would need, correct? I mean, to take the burden off the code enforcement
This is,
staff.
so this would potentially lead to a permanent solution.
Okay.
And, you know, part-time, even the part-time would provide a lot of relief, but, again, it would be moving towards that permanent position that could administer planning and zoning duties, right, specifically, so.
Further discussion?
Yeah, so, am I missing the part, where do we get the workload off you?
So,
I don't wanna go to 50 days, John, so how do we get some of this workload off of you?
well, I think Greg is able to answer that too.
Yeah, the consultant, having a consultant, if this structure's in place and we move forward with funding a consultant to take the planning and zoning piece off of John, that's what would come off, right?
Was the
Okay, so
consultant-
where is the
Structure.
consultant funding?
I'm sorry, so by recreating a department, that's the structure that you needed to get the workload off of him? I'm confused now, because,
We've been operating with, so we had a community development department who was physically located upstairs in City Hall and a code enforcement office downstairs in City Hall that didn't communicate on a regular basis. And, you know, we've identified issues where we should be communicating on a regular basis. We should be very connected there. So we combined those offices physically in the same space several years ago. And I think that's been a success, and I would let John and Judy talk to that. And so we've been calling it the planning and development team as an in-house sort of, this is how we're framing this, and now it's just an opportunity to formalize that in what we call a department. We could call it the community development department, we could call it two separate departments. You know, what's taking the workload off of John specifically related to planning and zoning is hiring a consultant. But the idea of combining and formally, you know, joining them into one department is just formalizing what we've been doing and where we think it makes sense to head in the future, going toward that planning and development department. We don't have a planning department, we've never had that. So starting to call it that, this is where we're trying to go, I think makes a lot of sense. It's just kind of clearly communicating what it is that we're collectively trying to accomplish.
right, so understanding that John needs some help, a lot of help with planning and zoning, has an RFP, is that where you're headed? Have you already created an RFP?
We
for
can
that?
bring forward an RFP, we can do that process to find a consultant. We can bring forward a motion for the city council to hire a particular consultant based on a proposal that they give us. But this was something that, you know, we needed to have direction to do that, that's all. Once we have direction, we can go forward with that.
Can I
We've
just-
done that with, obviously, with RSS, we've done that. That was the immediate need.
Yeah, can I just add that incorporation of personnel in an office space means that you're sharing institutional knowledge, which is a protection against the loss of employees down the road for whatever reason that may be. And that's not something that we would have by contract, just to throw that out. All right, do we have any further?
I think you
Yes?
should-
Shannon, do you have something? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to table.
Second.
Could you repeat that?
Motion to table.
Motion to table.
Motion to table, Karen.
Councilmember Moser Campoli?
No.
Councilmember Walsh Russo?
No.
Councilmember McHugh?
Aye.
Councilmember LaParishu?
Aye.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrester Rothbart?
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson?
Yes.
Motion number 12. The common council authorizes the mayor to sign the site access and usage agreement with Casella Waste Management of New York Incorporated to allow continued use of city property at 27 Market Street for the purposes of temporary collection and storage of waste and recycling materials from nearby customers with an expiration date of April 30, 2026, subject to review by the city attorney. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a motion to approve? Is that you, Katie? Don. Do I have a second? Scott? Discussion?
Yeah, so I asked for this and the following motion to be pulled because, I have two sort of things here. One is, I'm unsure what has changed, since we voted to remove those dumpsters, so I'm just looking sort of for the rationale of putting them back. And then also, I noticed in the lease agreements that there's no indication of a screening requirement, which I know is in our code, but if we own the property and they own the dumpsters, who's responsible for screening it? And even temporarily, is that something that's going to be a requirement for the lessees? Those are my two questions.
Great.
Moving backwards, as you noted, there is nothing in there that requires that of the lessees. They don't have screening now. It was intended to be a temporary solution that's gone a bit longer, based on concerns about removing it. The vote to remove that, I think, had the intended effect, which was to generate some action from both the haulers and one particular business that is a customer of one of the haulers who came to me and met with Chris and I. We've talked about this. Casella, we've talked about through, I think we talked about it at Click, and then we talked about it at Finance, perhaps. We're working with them. Hopefully in the next few weeks, next month or so, we'll have another agreement to bring through to council to consider to lease property, a small section of the 47 Market Street parcel next to the stair tower to them to install a more permanent solution, which would be compactors, recycling and trash, with a chute that comes down from Water Street, which would serve their customers. Logan's does not have the capability or interest in doing something like that, and there really isn't another space on that 47 Market Street parcel for them. So I've been in touch with them multiple times as well. I followed up. They're trying to talk with their customers, having some trouble getting in touch with people and getting calls back and that sort of thing, but I told them we're open to hearing any proposed solution they may have, that whether it involves city property or not, we'll talk with them and try to work this out, because obviously having refuse collection in the city is something we're all interested in, having that done efficiently and not having trash on the street. I mentioned, I think it was at Finance, that the Clinton Plaza, who many of the businesses that use the dumpsters there are the Clinton Plaza. The Clinton Plaza used to allow, I think it was Logan's, perhaps Casella, perhaps both Casella, to have their dumpsters located on Clinton Plaza property. They kicked them off, did not allow that anymore several years ago after they received some code violations because of the mess that was existing there.
Catch on fire.
Oh, no.
That could have been part of it. So that is when that traffic, that business moved down to Water Street in the cages that were underneath the parking garage at the time. So there was always, since that was a solution in the early 2000s, there was a Logan's and a Casella dumpster underneath the parking garage. We had many, many complaints about that from businesses right across there. We tried to work with the haulers. We had no agreements for decades. It was just a handshake agreement, I guess. We worked out agreements with Casella and Logan so that they would maintain those spaces and clean them as well as they could, but that only works so well. So coming back around to why are we suggesting enter new agreements on a temporary basis with an end date? In this case, the end date is April 30th. Before there was no end date, it was a kind of rolling thing. That gives Casella time to figure out their solution, first with us getting an agreement to lease that land so that then they can go forward procuring the equipment that's necessary and setting things up so they can have the chute system and the compactors at 47 Market. It gives Logan's a little more time to figure out what it is they want to do. I would not recommend that the city extend a contract with either of these haulers beyond April 30th, because again, we don't know what's going to happen with 27 Market Street. I don't think anyone wants the situation that's there now to exist permanently. If someone were to propose, we want to buy that parcel and store garbage in it, we can consider that. But I don't really see a likely scenario in which it makes sense for the city to continue to allow a hauler to store their dumpsters on our property. There's a lot of issues that go along with it, especially when it's open, it's not protected, there's not a locking mechanism. There are people that are abusing it, that are throwing their trash there who do not pay either hauler. So it's a real issue, and I think it really is the hauler's responsibility to figure out where they store their dumpsters, and it's the business's responsibility to figure out who is taking their trash and where they store it. But we're trying to be as helpful and as flexible as we can to not create a bigger issue for the city generally by forcing them out in 2 weeks.
Thank you. That was very thorough.
Done.
I think having the April 30th deadline is good because it'll force the two companies to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And we can't just have the businesses not have a place to get rid of their garbage. So I think this is a good deal.
Okay, further discussion on this?
I would just say, like, if there's any way to encourage the haulers to, and I don't know, and maybe this is a bigger conversation because now I'm thinking about them putting up fencing on our property, but to encourage them to screen these dumpsters in compliance with the code, that would be good, in my opinion. Like I said, I don't know if them putting up the fencing on our lot is ideal, so I'm not sure how that would work, but that would be something that I would be in favor of, is having it be protected, like you said.
I would second that.
All right, further discussion? If not, Cecilia?
Just to say, this, I think begs the question of what are we as a council going to discuss and then ultimately decide about that property in terms of moving forward.
Right, not tonight.
Not tonight.
So if there's no further discussion, Carrie?
Councilmember Moser Campoli?
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh Russo?
Aye.
Councilmember McHugh?
Aye.
Councilmember LaParishu?
Aye.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrester Rothbart?
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson?
Yes.
All right, this should be an easy one then. Motion number 13, that the common council authorizes the mayor to sign the site access and usage agreement with Logan's Trucking to allow continued use of city property at 27 Market Street for the purposes of temporary collection and storage of waste and recycling materials from nearby customers with an expiration date of April 30th, 2026, subject to review by the city attorney. Don,
Second.
followed by Katie. Discussion?
Don Ham is fast.
No discussion. I think we can vote.
Councilmember Moser Campoli?
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh Russo?
Aye.
Councilmember McHugh?
Aye.
Councilmember LaParishu?
Aye.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrester Rothbart?
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson?
Yes.
All right. Motion number 14 is that the common council approves a budget transfer in the amount of $10,000 for a wetland delineation on 418 acres of city-owned property at the Albert S. Nader Regional Airport from A.1990.480 general fund contingency to A.5610.463 airport professional services. Do I have a motion to approve? I've got Glenn, followed by Mike. Discussion on this? We lost Elaine. Any discussion on this? Yes, go ahead, Katie.
I would like to move to table this. Is that a second? Oh, you had your hand up.
Don, are you seconding?
Yes.
Thanks, Don.
Okay.
Do you want to give her a second? to
Yes, I
that?
would love to have 8 council members here.
Can I speak?
Yes,
Even though
no.
it's table- it's-
Not about the
No,
motion.
not about, we can talk about something else,
No.
if you'd like. No, let's just wait for Elaine to return. And
I would just like to say our city staff are troopers with them sitting in these hard
Yeah.
benches for,
on the hard benches too, right?
Yeah, when are we gonna get those cushions?
Yeah, seriously.
When are we gonna remodel?
All right, there's been a motion to table this motion, and we have not yet begun to vote.
Councilmember Moser?
No.
Councilmember Walsh Russo?
No.
Councilmember McHugh?
Yes.
Councilmember LaParishu?
Yes.
Councilmember Carson?
No.
Councilmember Harrington?
yes.
Councilmember Forrester Rothbart?
No.
Councilmember Matheson?
Yes.
Tie vote, no abstentions, it's your call.
Yeah, so my call is we continue to talk about this. Yes.
For those of you who weren't here when we discussed this last time, I just wanna quickly tell you, I started out opposing this because it's a $10,000 expense that I thought that could be avoided, because the DEC will do it for free, but then city staff explained that, yes, DEC would do it for free, but we might have to wait a year, plus we'd still have to provide surveying, so we it would end up costing us just about as much. My second part of my concern was that should we really be doing wetland delineation, which is sort of the first step of the next stage of airport development, when we haven't decided clearly what that next stage is going to look like. And I came around to city staff convinced me that, yeah, that wetland delineation is useful, and in particular, separately, I had an email conversation with, I forget his name, the assistant chair of the airport commission.
Justin.
Justin Ostrich, who pointed out that usually when they do a project, like they only get, we know wetland delineation for that specific site, but this will let them do a complete, end to end of the airport wetland delineation, which helps with more global planning. So that's what convinced me to change my mind last time from no to yes. But because we only had 5 people, then we had 1 negative vote done, and so it didn't pass it, but the rest of us supported it.
Further, Holly?
Yeah, so I've been attending the airport commission meetings to get myself up to speed on, what's going on at the airport and, stay in connection with these, issues that have become really important to the public. And so after the last airport commission meeting, I had the chance to talk to several property owners, including Randy and Nancy Martello, and they were all in favor of moving ahead with wetland delineation. They appreciate the idea that this provides further information for the city and for the council to make judgments on. And I also, so knowing that it is important to those landowners as well, I think it's part of that good neighbor that we can be by providing as much information about this, project as possible.
Cecilia?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Chris, because when we had this discussion, I believe it was the last meeting, you had spoken about this was deadline sensitive, that if we push this off, that it actually sort of like, it's like tripping a wire, it just sort of messes everything sort of down the line. Would you mind just repeating the point that you had made? It was very helpful for my decision making last time. You had spoken that if we had pushed this off to the spring, which was I think one of the proposals.
So the issue is we're running out of time. We're losing the ability to identify vegetation, hydrology, hydric soils. Delineations are best done when you still have all that available. Once it's buried under 2 feet of snow, you can't do that kind of work. So if we do it now, it gets us ahead. We start the jurisdictional determination right away. It'll get Army Corps and DEC involved. They can start review immediately. They have a certain amount of time that they have to review the work. Wait till the spring, just gonna delay that much further. So now is the time to do it.
Further discussion?
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Katie.
I appreciate that, because that's what I was wondering, especially given the recent development that the contingency budget is really low. And so I do hesitate to spend the $10,000 this year. I would personally rather spend it next year. That makes sense. I guess I'm just wondering about the, you said it will delay it that much further. So where in the process does this fall? And so what else is it butting up against?
It's kind of the first part of the process to determine what you can do with the property without knowing wetland delineation, without having wetland delineation done, verified by the agencies. You really can't move any further forward. So basically, we'll be stagnant until April when the delineation can be done and determine what areas you can or cannot affect.
So I guess my question is does this impact existing projects or future projects?
Greg?
Future projects, so such as a capital plan, including the reconstruction of the entrance roadway, which includes a relocation of that roadway over the swing closer to the edge of the property, creating more space for future development within the airport proper. That project, which is on the capital plan, is something that we would theoretically advise you for next year, would require this. I believe, wouldn't quote me on this, but I believe the partial parallel taxiway, that wetland delineation was done as part of that project, so it's not necessary for that, although I would ask Lucero to confirm that because that has been designed already. But yeah, certainly any other projects that might come down the line
Cecilia.
That doesn't please me, sorry.
Not trying to mention.
I know,
Right.
I know.
Cecilia.
I wanna just go back, I believe Michael, you made a point, isn't this just useful data
Static.
regardless of project planning or management? Is it just important to know
It's
what
a collection of
delineation
data.
in this portion of the airport? Yeah.
It is
sorry.
taken, except in the context that these wetland delineations have a time limited span of 5 years or something.
Yeah.
That they're valid, so it's not like we've never done it before.
Right.
And it's not like things have changed dramatically since 5 years ago, but we still, but there are some changes.
Yes.
Just like with the LiDAR, you know, the trees have grown, there's some changes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's useful.
And winters have been more mild, and there's been changes in the climate, so, yeah.
It also starts a clock though, so if we do it now, it's 5 years from now, and if we do it in April, it's 5 years from April, so, I don't know.
Elaine.
Yeah.
Greg?
I mean, the aforementioned projects, those applications are typically in late spring or during the summer, depending on how it gets pushed. So to make that application, it's my understanding this work would need to be done so that they can
Prior
do
to
the
that.
initial conceptual design to be able to have that.
Gotcha. Can I
you
ask
know,
a follow-up
propose that.
question?
But again, I would refer to this Sarah on that.
Okay.
Elaine.
Oh,
Elaine.
I just wanted to clarify that even with the knowledge that this was, for future projects, because I do remember that being explained at the airport commission. Again, the property owners there, who I know are asking for information and engagement, and we're trying to, create a good, relationship for negotiation with them, they've really supported this. And so, while they may live in the town, I think that their voice is important, in this discussion.
Right. Jenny, you had something?
I just wanted to share with Katie, if you're concerned about budget as far as funding this year versus next year, you have a better option of funding it this year. Next year, the budget is going to be extremely.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Elaine.
I would just like to bring back the fact that we've partnered with Otsego County, with the airport, and that they're wanting to move forward with keeping the airport up and running. They're funding us now, and they're gonna be funding us every year. So that's a partnership, so we need to take that into consideration, that we're now partnering with Otsego County. They understand that it's, we're settled, we've been settled with a bill, but it is a regional asset, and that's where the county is trying to take it to. I'm not sure Greg or Jenny could answer the question of maybe some of the funds that we've put aside for the airport could be spent for this rather than taking it out of the general contingency. I don't know.
The airport capital improvement reserve that was created last April, that was $153,000 in change that was put in that reserve that came from our logging
Right.
of the airport property that happened. That has been, I would say, currently dedicated to the off-airport obstruction removal project, along with additional funding from the Community Landscaping Fund. So currently, it's committed. We're expecting once, because of the process with that off-airport obstruction removal project, once that goes forward to FAA and they approve it, then they would reimburse the city for all but, I think, $8,750. But currently, we couldn't double commit that
Right.
funding, so that's why we're not proposing it.
So maybe, Katie, that you could take that into consideration, is that the $10,000 will go back to the contingency once we get this completed. We need to
I know.
get
But
paid
then
back by
we've-
the FAA.
Okay.
Shannon.
But then we've taken money in agreements with the FFA, and now they're in our hair for 20 years for every dollar we take.
I mean, part of having an airport and accepting the grant funding that comes with funding it is there those grant assurances that are to ensure that the airport is functioning within standards.
Katie?
Could you speak to what the county involvement is? Like, so when you said that, I was thinking like, well, maybe they would be willing to split the cost of this with us. But you said that they're funding us, and so I'm just curious
Yes, so-
about,
The way I understand the partnership is that they are, I think it was 50,000 to start with, 50,000 at the county.
I'm aware of talks about the county funding, but not
Yeah,
aware of
so-
any commitments.
I don't know that we have something.
That's been the
So-
talk, is that, there'd be a sharing of the expenses.
Yeah, I think we're committed to that, but I don't know that
So
there's.
could we start here with this $10,000?
Mike?
I've talked with Chip Seal, who's my county, and who made it clear that the county budget is in dire shape for next year. And so, although that may be their intention eventually to support this, they're hurting, there's no money available for
They're
anything.
going through this process as well, so we'll see what comes out on the other end. Jenny?
I was basically going to say that we don't have anything in this review to place yet, but I do know discussions are going on about the county investing in this airport, which is a big step, because before, there wasn't a lot of support for it, but from what I understand, there is much stronger support for it now. But we don't currently have anything in writing.
In place.
So that's why I wouldn't want you to depend on it at this point.
All right, I don't believe there's further discussion on this. Let's call the vote, Kim.
Councilmember Mosher Campoli?
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh Russo?
Aye.
Councilmember McHugh?
No.
Councilmember Lepari Shu?
No.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
No.
Councilmember Forrester Rothbard?
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson?
Yes.
Passes. All right. Motion number 15, that the common council approve the budget amendment totaling $152,000 for fire department overtime, increasing general fund appropriated fund balance as presented. Do I have a motion to approve? I've got Lynn. Do I have a second? I've got Don. Any discussion? Do we have discussion on this?
What are we doing?
Was this for the,
Oh, this is the generic, right?
Overtime.
But we didn't put a,
the overtime for children's
Do you want to just expound on this quick?
Well, Finance Director Lee has done an estimate for the rest of the year, estimates will be another $152,000 to cover the anticipated fire department overtime costs. What Cecilia was referring to, the fire chief had mentioned at the finance committee meeting that there was some public education events, Fire Prevention Month, October, that he would like to do that would incur overtime. He was looking for some general consensus that that was acceptable, understanding that this motion had not yet passed and there was no overtime money or it was running out. The finance committee was generally amenable to that. That's how I took it. Okay. The $152,000 is necessary on the current pace, and Jenny, if you want to jump in as to any more detail, if you would like. She can-
I'm sorry, can I just ask a clarifying question? So the $152,000 does not include the additional children's programming?
I mean, her projection is based on the trend. The $152,000 would not specifically include something like children's fire prevention activities. That would,
I believe the council gave the impression to the fire chief, and correct me if I'm wrong, from the records, to go forward with these school visits. I believe that is correct.
They're doing it, so.
Yeah, so
I got a
this,
letter home.
this estimate is just based on, when I look at the history of how much overtime is being spent each pay cycle in the fire department, I projected that to the end of the year.
Okay.
So this includes the salary, the FICA, and the retirement.
Okay.
So, but it does not, I did not get to the specifics as far as where he's spending the overtime.
Sure, but I guess my question is like, that takes into account that this is sort of outside of that trend, that there may be additional overtime as a result of those activities, or no, this is just based on
This is-
past history?
This is just based on,
Okay, gotcha.
based on the 2025 history, of
Okay.
what they're spending each pay cycle.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Mike?
I've said this before, and I say this every time it comes up. I'm okay supporting this now, but we, in our budget, we need to make it clear that the fire department can't continue to go over its overtime budget year after year.
Cecilia?
So, to draw on, Mike, your point that I think that begs then the question that perhaps we need to have a council-wide discussion on formulating an overtime policy across departments. Maybe not tonight.
sure, let's take it. Sorry, Mark, it's a joke.
So I think we can call the vote.
Councilmember Councilmember Mosher Campoli.
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh Russo.
Aye.
Councilmember McHugh.
Aye.
Councilmember LaPartie.
Yes.
Councilmember Carson.
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Forrester Rothbart.
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson.
Yes.
Kids really looking
Motion
forward
number
to it.
16, that the common council adopts the local law which would authorize a property tax levy in excess of the limit established in General Municipal Code, General Municipal Law, Section 3-C. This local law was laid electronically on October 7, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve? I've got Elaine followed by Cecilia and everybody else. Do we have discussion? We can take a vote.
Councilmember Mosher Campoli.
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh Russo.
Aye.
Councilmember McHugh.
Aye.
Councilmember LaPartie.
Yes.
Councilmember Carson.
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Forrester Rothbart.
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson.
No.
Okay. All right, we are now at that point where Jenny's going to begin presentation of the preliminary budget, beginning of our discussion of that. I would ask the council, is there a need for a break?
Is that a delivery?
Just to stand up.
Yeah, just whatever, stretch your legs. Let's do what needs to be done and start fresh at 10 o'clock.
Go ahead, Jenny, we'll skip
Okay,
break.
all right. Well, first I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Greg, I want to thank all the department heads, all the effort that has been put into this documents, and all of these documents that you have in front of you. So thank you to everybody. It took a lot of effort and time and energy. All right, so in your binders or going into your binders, under your request section, there are, it's the memo for today, the preliminary budget, the Appendix A, which is the chart of accounts, the Appendix B, which are the budget request forms, and then Appendix C, which is the detail of all of the restricted funds. So I'm just gonna highlight very quickly so we can end our evening. And first I want to tell you two things that are not in the budget that I would like the council to seriously consider. Is cyber insurance. We have now met all of our qualifications to be eligible for cyber insurance. The annual cost is about $25,000 a year, so I would like that to be in the budget discussions as we proceed forward. The second piece that is not in being presented to you tonight is the budget that was developed for public art. We said that it would be part of the budget discussion if the council wanted to renew that budget again for 2026. So those are the two items that I would like you to keep in mind. What you've got in your possession is a summary of the budget funds, but it's been expanded, showing you the difference between the 25 adopted and the 26 requests, and then it also shows you the 25 adopted and the 26 preliminary. That gives you more information so you can actually see from the different departments how much has been cut from the request to the preliminary. There's also graphs that gives you the visuals of the makeup and the updated tax cap formula. The state has granted us the ability to receive extra funds for the the police and fire retirement. So now the tax cap formula brings our tax cap up to $192,000 from the $152,000. There's also detail on the fund balance and the reserve, what we have proposed to present to you as being used for the reserves. There's the summary of expenditures for water, sewer, and general fund. This is very similar to your adopted budgets that you see. There's the equipment and capital outlay schedules and the personal services. What is new this year is the what we call the budget request forms. Certain accounts were detailed by the department heads explaining why the request was there. That's your Appendix B. That gives you a good read so you can understand the request, you can understand the reason of why they asked it. Also, you will see in the budget request forms if something was reduced. If Greg and I went through the budget numerous times to be able to make cuts. And so the budget request forms will give you good reads in detail. They are also color-coded to the request detail that you will see. So if it's red, that means it was 100% cut out of the budget. If it was green, it was funded, and if it was yellow, it was funded with a reduction. So the color coding is there to assist you. Also on the electronic version of this, if you click on the comments, it will take you right to that section. Okay, and then the capital plan and strategic plan will be coming next week to you. So the general fund, we went by the council's instructions. We raised the tax levy by 300,000, and we appropriated unrestricted fund balance by the 1.8 million. We then used about 1.5. Well, first I'm going to tell you that the 2026 request exceeded our revenues out without using any fund balance sources by $6.2 million. So then once we used the 1.8 from the unrestricted fund balance and 1.5 from the reserves, we had to cut $2.9 million more from the request. That is all detailed for you on the attachments on my memo. So you will see attachment A, that will be all of the salary requests that were eliminated from the budget. On attachment B, you will see the salary requests that were included in the budget. Some of them are employee career development growths with change of title. Some of them are adjusting some salaries that we thought were justifiable and want you to seriously consider funding them. Attachment C will show you all of the equipment that got cut from the request. Attachment D will show you all of the supplies and contractual services. Glenn, it is on.
Gee, where are the attachments?
Go to the end of my memo.
Oh,
So,
right.
at the end of my memo.
So you gotta hold my hand.
Yeah, just right here. It's these attachments right here. A, B, C, and D. So what?
I see.
Yeah, so my memo is a
Right at the
quick
beginning.
summary of everything that's behind it.
I thought there was like an actual.
Needed the
panel
guided tour to
attached.
find it.
Yeah. So,
I got blonde hair, can't confuse me.
so, pardon me?
The attachments you were-
Yeah, so go to right here. This is attachment D, A, B, C, and D. It's right on my memo. So my memo is 14 pages, I believe, and as I said, it's a quick summary of everything that follows it. And then, so that will give you all of the details, so you will see everything that was actually cut from the requests. It is imperative that the council consider increasing the reserves. And I gave a detail here. I know my original request was for 1.5 million, but after going through the request for 26, I now have added 100,000 to our IT reserve and 100,000 to Parks and Rec and 50,000 for the airport. And so it comes to the 1.7. The attachment C in there details all of the reserves. It will show you the current balance as of 12/31/24. It will show you what we've expended in 25, what we've got outstanding purchase orders for, what we have committed but we have not processed yet. Then it will show you the proposed additions and the proposed uses to show you what the balance will be outside of the extra income that we'll earn in 26 for the end of the year. So it gives you a good idea of where our balances will go by. But that's attachment C, and it's also on the legal, so it's just folded a little differently. And then the property, I already told you about the property tax cap. So the general fund in the preliminary budget was increased by $1,020,955. That is made up of 300,000 in the tax levy, 75,000 in pilot agreements, 500,000 in sales tax, 45,000 in cannabis sales tax, 35,000 in gross utility receipts, 55,000 in safety fees, $50,000 in the town fire contract, and then I reduced interest by $50,000 because I'm expecting the interest rates to go down. And what is not in the budget is the occupancy tax, which I think if that gets passed, and just so you know, Alan is going to a county meeting on Friday, and the state reps are gonna be there about occupancy tax, so he's gonna follow up for us to see what our status is. And then also what is not in the budget is the extra state aid, because I still have not received any notice if we're going to be getting that. And there's also no paid parking currently. And that will be coming for council consideration in the future. So that is a very quick summary of the budget. Now, also what I did that's on the revenue side. We're gonna get to the expense side shortly. So in the water fund, the metered sales includes a budget increase of $385,000. And how we determine that is bringing as you know, we've separated out the colleges in a separate fund, bringing their monies up to what they're currently paying for 2025. That's an estimate of about $920,000. And then increasing the minimum and the first 4 steps of the grid. We'll be showing you this next week on our water worth presentation. And so also in the water fund, there was $192,000 included in the capital projects, transferring costs $152,000 for water system projects, and also $40,000 for the Tyler conversion. Once the Tyler conversion, everything gets up and running, we will then move it to the departments instead of the capital project. Because we are still going through the conversion, we will start having to pay the SAS fees in '26, so we're gonna make that part of the capital project itself. And you will see that in the general water and sewer fund activities. And then also, both the water and the sewer funds have strong contingency amounts in this year. This is the first year for both the water and sewer funds that the budget was done seamlessly. Because of our slow and steady rate increases that we have been implementing over the years, the revenue is starting to creep up to be able to fund all the requests. We've made very few cuts from the water and sewer fund. We didn't even provide them to you because the department head did not object to anything that we changed. So the water and sewer funds are really going in the right direction. The sewer fund rents that budget has been increased by $225,000, and that was calculated again by raising the colleges up by $75,000. And the other rents will only have to be raised up by another $75,000. Again, we'll do it through the minimum and the rates. $115,000 will be transferred to capital projects, $75,000 for sewer system repairs, and then again the $40,000 for Tyler. The proposed budget has a strong contingency of $116,000, and I'm really pleased with how the water and sewer funds are progressing. We still have a lot to go, but we're going in the right direction. So on page 4 of my memo, I detail out the restrictive uses for the different restricted reserves for the general water and sewer. Please read it at your leisure so you can absorb the detail of what's being requested. Citywide expenses for the general fund. Health insurance right now is being budgeted at a 14% increase. For our active employees, the 65 plus is a little over 23%. We are meeting with the consortium tomorrow, so if there's any updates, I will let you know, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be very close to those numbers. So I gave you the detail of how much increased by each fund. The general fund, or citywide, the insurance costs are estimated to be over $4.3 million. And it's increased by almost $385,000 citywide, and I broke it out by fund for you. But I'm giving you a fun fact just to kind of put it in perspective. So the general fund health insurance cost within the 2026 preliminary budget is $3,496,650. That is 15.6% of the general fund budget, and it is 59.7% of the tax levy. So I just wanted to put those numbers in comparison so you can give an idea of how much our health insurance costs are. So also the New York State Retirement System increased the mandatory contributions, and I gave you the chart by tier and by unit. And so the budget increased in the general fund by over 235,000, most of it being within the uniform departments. The fire department was over 107,000, the police department was 78,000. And the city's liability insurances, I budgeted between 10 and 20% depending on which policy it was. And we are doing the slow and steady approach with our flood insurance. Our flood insurances, they want to eventually have them at the maximum coverage, which is 500,000. To do that, it would be extremely costly. So what I'm doing is every year I'm taking the next level of coverage, and that way it just increases it on a slow and steady process. Until there are some policies that are already at the full coverage, but we have a number of policies yet to go. All of these flood policies have been affected by previous FEMA claims. So that is why we need to get them up to the maximum level. Because what will happen is if we have another FEMA claim against it and do not have the proper insurance, that will affect how much we get reimbursed by FEMA. So the general fund street projects, again, will be funded through all of the New York State Department of Transportation programs. The general fund expenses increased by $1.9 million. And the bulk of that is in equipment. It's $888,000 in equipment increases. That is all detailed for you after this memo. And then bond anticipation note. I just want the council to know, I mentioned this at a previous meeting. The bond anticipation note for Market Street is being renewed for another 6 months. The reason being is because in consulting with the bond council, that we're expecting the federal rates to go down again. So we will be, even if we save 0.25% in our interest rate, it will far exceed the closing costs for renewing the bond. And so it will save us hundreds of thousands of dollars over the term of the debt. So but that is all in the 26 budget. And then
I didn't hear it, so the bonds are for what project?
For the Market Street project.
Thank you.
And then the water expenses increased by $391,000. I detailed all of those out by category. Sewer expenses increased by $256,000, and I detailed all of that out for you. Personal services, the preliminary budget does not include any new full-time positions, even though that they were requested. There's detailed reports for you in the budget request form, so you can read about all of the different ones that were requested. Part-time budget was increased by 1 position, and that was for the intern that you had approved for the finance department. And the preliminary budget includes salary and longevity increases for all city employees pursuant to the union contracts and to the administrative manual. There are a few that are above that, but again, I detailed them for you. But any additional raises outside of the ones that I detailed were not included in the budget. And then the part-time budget, we increased it by 50 cents an hour to stay in line with the New York State minimum wage. Then I provided you a schedule of the personnel expenses, and started from the modified 2025 budget to the net change for 26, and I broke it out by category. So it's elected officials, administrative, CSEA, fire, police. You've got all of that detail right there. And then enterprise fund, I talked about the enterprise fund, how much of their revenues went up and how much we have left of the grant and their operating aid. And that ends basically my narrative in my budget memo. But then, as I said, attachment A, this shows all of the additional raises and positions that are not in the budget, but I showed you the cost of the request. So when you consider them, you'll see how much it's going to increase the budget. Attachment B is for the ones that are included in the budget. Attachment C is all the equipment that has been excluded from the budget. And attachment D details out all of the .4s that had decreases or eliminations. Then you have your preliminary budget. This is just like your adopted budget except for the debt, because I provided that in previous memos to you, but it has all of the detail by department. So you can go into their code and just look to see what their requests are. It has the request plus the preliminary right next to each other, so you can see if one says 20,000 and the number next to it is 0, you know that it got deleted, and it should also be color-coded to the budget request form. And then Appendix A is.
Sorry, did you say that again? I didn't follow that.
Okay.
Which column is?
Okay, so you need to flip. Those are my attachments. Just flip up, flip.
Okay.
No, keep going. Grab a bunch of papers. There you go. So you've got the request column, and you've got the preliminary. Okay, and then it shows you history also for the actuals and budgets. Then on Appendix A is the proposed chart of accounts, or I said it again, Greg, organizational chart for the personnel makeup in the budget. Appendix B, as I said, is all the budget request forms. Appendix C is the detail of all of our restricted reserves. So that is what you have in your possession. And then I know it's late, it's a late hour, but thank you for letting me do this so we can kick it off. And then next week when we meet again, you'll have time to read it. Any questions that you want answered, for next week, and if you want to give me the heads up so I can give you more detail, please do so. And then, we can continue the conversation.
Thank you very much, Jenny. So we are looking at, we want to see if we can pull together a meeting that actually has all of our.
I think Katie has a question.
I'm sorry, Katie?
Two quick ones, I think. One is the intern for the finance department.
Yes.
I know that there was some, talk with Caroline last time about getting that to be an approved internship, so that there was some,
Yes.
SUNY sponsorship. I'm just wondering, because
Yes.
when you said that you included it in the budget, I wondered if there was any.
Yes, he did get approved. He is getting course credit for it.
Cool.
And if I can just give him a 30-second plug, he's fantastic.
Awesome.
He is young and energetic. He's an excellent student. And matter of fact, he wants to work for us.
Awesome.
So, yeah, he's
Okay.
yeah.
So why is that in the budget then?
It's in the budget as a part-time. We are paying for the internship. The SUNY did not pay for this internship, so we're paying for it as a student worker.
Oh.
And that's what got approved in the motion.
Well, I know, but I know that, anyway, we can
Yeah.
get into it. Second question is about the administrative manual. We approve that annually, right? So I'm just wondering when we will receive that for review.
Probably in November. We're not
Okay.
we're not there yet to present that.
Okay. I'm wondering, let me look into it and I'll ask my question.
Don?
Okay.
Via email, thank you.
The percentage increase for the property taxes,
Oh, hold on, let me go there. At 300,000, it's 5.4.
thank you.
At the tax cap, it's 3.47.
Does that change?
Yeah, it changed.
3.47. Thank you.
Katie, did you have anything?
I did not, no.
Okay. So what we're gonna wanna see if we can do is we wanna see if we can bring together all 8 council members. And we're gonna see if we can convene on Monday to do that. Monday is the 27th.
Nope. I can't make it.
Do we not have everybody for the Wednesday date?
Well,
We-
I was
we-
the first person to respond, that
Right.
I would not be available Wednesday.
Right.
And that I need time to plan, to move things around, and so I asked you multiple times, you said, yes, we're changing it to Wednesday. So then my plan got solidified, and so. I
That's
can't
fine. We're
work
actually
on
meeting, we
Wednesday.
need to meet Wednesday as well. So we're looking at,
You're looking in addition to Wednesday.
that's correct, yeah. We need to,
That's what part of the,
No,
I
no.
was the community
That's
wellness
not-
meeting,
am I
to
wrong?
open that day up for us.
oh, hang on. This just in.
No, we've done the abbreviated version of tonight. Obviously, we're not continuing with more questions and all that, but I think we've conveyed enough of what is in here, that everyone could study it and come up with questions and we can have that discussion on Wednesday or Monday, whenever you want.
No, well, Wednesday's the day that we had agreed
One
on,
meeting
so if
is
there's
okay.
no additional requirement for us to go line by line,
And
and
Ginny, if you could just give me any of the papers.
then I'm
that
all
would
good
be
with
here
that.
Wednesday.
Yep, absolutely.
And I
And Shannon,
expect
if you
that
have-
everybody else is too.
If you have questions
she-
or anything, contact us, we'll make sure we
Yeah.
address them.
All right, so the schedule does not change. You can even have your quick meeting if you want. And we will convene again on the 29th at what time?
Special meeting, so it would be.
At 5 PM. Now, we know, Shannon, you're not gonna be able to be here, and that's all right. We get that. And also, Glenn's not gonna be able to be here on the 29th. And it's understandable. We understand what's what there, so. But in the meantime, we'll all study, and we'll all reconvene, and we will make progress.
So then when
Okay.
is the next special meeting?
29th.
The next regular
When-
meeting of the
When
council,
we're gonna
Or
talk about the
Tuesday.
budget.
the 29th.
At 5:30.
Correct, and then after that, I'm sorry.
Is
after
the November
20th.
4th is the next council meeting.
Right, so if I can just explain to everybody,
Folks,
just like
Folks.
what we're,
They said 5:30.
Oh, did you say 5:30?
folks, let Greg just
just to
explain.
clarify the question about like what the process is. So the 29th is the next special meeting. That's a very important meeting. It's gonna be a long meeting. It's gonna be all the discussion in the back and forth, and ultimately some direction back to Ginny and I as to are there any items that you want changed, anything we wanna change about the preliminary budget. The tentative budget would be presented on the 4th of November. That's the next regular council meeting. That's not to be voted on then, that would be voted on the second November meeting, regular council meeting, whatever, you know, that means the 18th. If there needs to be another special meeting, the sometime after the 4th, that would be the time to do that. Ultimately, when that we would, if we have discussion on the 29th and we make some changes and we come back on the 4th, there's more discussion, more changes to be made, we can present a new tentative budget, correct me if I'm wrong, Ginny, on the next week. But when we get to the second meeting, the 18th of November, in order to change anything in that, there would need to be a motion by a council member, seconded, voted on to change a particular line item. So you don't wanna be making changes at that point, you want it to be in that final draft where you vote on it, approve it, it goes to the public hearing a week later, and then it goes to the actual vote to approve the first meeting in December. So 29th, the 4th is the regular meeting, and then potentially, if you need another special meeting sometime in between there, we'd have to figure that out. I think our schedule might have listed one.
Depending on what we wind up with on the 4th.
So just keep on.
Yeah, the time on the 29th, is that 5?
29th will be
I
5
have
PM.
5.
Okay.
And I will bring pizza for that meeting. So, but also, I just want everybody to keep in mind, when you're going through all of these documents and you say, well, I would really like that in the budget, right? And you want to bring it up for discussion to see if it gets, just remember, we're going to have to figure out how to fund it. So I just want everybody to keep that in mind. And if there's something that you want replaced in the budget, like you want one out and one in, but if we do at the first meeting in November, or even at the tentative, the second meeting in November, you're still able, I don't want you to think that you can't change it, but as Greg said, everything has to be voted upon. And,
So
Okay.
if you're feeling overwhelmed as you're looking at all these pages and you want to start somewhere, I would suggest starting with the budget request forms. We asked our department heads to go to significant effort to put those together, and it's justifying both things, certain things that are one-time expenses or significant increases or changes that are either included in the budget or were excluded from the budget. So I think those are the big changes that are affecting, the 4.0 whatever codes that the department heads request. So maybe you could start there. Obviously, you can dive down into all the detail you want, but it might give you an idea of what was included, what wasn't.
and as I said, my memo details very high level of everything that's behind it. So reading my memo will guide you as far as where you want to go.
I just,
Go ahead.
if I may, I just wanna say, so this is my, I don't know how many, but it's been a few of them. And I think that this process has gotten better and more, digestible, every year. And I appreciate that. I know it's taking a considerable amount of effort and planning, and, I appreciate it.
6.
So 6.
Okay, so, thank you, Ginny. Thank you to everyone here who has managed to get through 4.5 hours. We have, I presume, no additional business or anything for
Didn't take
council
you too long.
consideration. And certainly no executive session, so unless there's a reason not, we're gonna call this adjourned.